Well, Growers Edge, I think, has made us more money by allowing me to survey the local bids that I'm in the area that I want to sell my grain. The local elevators and the ethanol plants know that this information is out there, so they've got to be competitive if they want to get the grain. You know, we've been able to maximize our return on our farm.
Good afternoon. Welcome to GrainTV. It's the Friday edition, March 13th, and Friday the 13th did not turn out good for the grains. Let's take a look at the grain hedge trading platform and see where we closed. Corn was off 8, beans was off 15.5, while wheat in Chicago was down 5 3/4. Cody, what did the bean market react to today?
Well, first of all, I think really what was going on today, because there didn't seem to be a whole lot of new news that entered the market, but I think what we did see today was just probably some reversing of positions that they've had all week. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what we got. I mean, we've had some of these volatile Fridays, and it's just going to be interesting to see how the trade reacts here coming back into the week starting on Monday. One thing that was important, of course, is the U.S. dollar. We've been showing dollar charts here for the last week, but that's because it just continues to rally very sharply. Yesterday, we had a little bit of a sell-off as we breached over that 100 part of that dollar index. That provided a little bit of resistance, but only for a day. We're able to close above it here this Friday. And what's interesting is when you compare the dollar to the Brazilian real, what you're seeing is the Brazilian real really losing ground here. And so what this means is that soybeans down in Brazil much more competitive on the global market. The fact that not only is their currency declining, but also they're in the peak harvest here. Their ports are pushing grain out. They have no significant delays. The trucker strike is over here. To me, it creates an environment that looks a little bit bearish here for soybeans.
Right, and we saw, this week in particular, we saw very low export sales for the U.S. bean market. So this may be a sign of more to come.
Absolutely, and we've been ahead of pace on those bean sales all year long. We saw a little bit of a tapering in bean sales here this week. Of course, the WASDE report on Tuesday showed, they had no revisions in their export expectations here. So I would think that implies that it's likely we continue to see tapering in those bean sales down to very little, even possibly cancellations later on. One thing to note is that on Monday here, we do have the NOPA crush numbers. The expectations here is for 148.537 million bushels crushed for the month of February here. Keep in mind that last February we were around 141.612. This means that if we reach this average expectation, if this actually comes to fruition, this will be a record here for the month of February. So that would be very strong bean sales. I wouldn't be surprised if we come in a little shy of that. The average range was very wide here in the 8 analyst estimates this week. It's quite possible we come in a little shy, but either way, those are the expectations.
Let's talk about basis this week, and unfortunately basis continues to be relatively flat, especially in the case of beans, where we see very little change across the country. This week we only had a plus 1 cent advance on the U.S. average soybean basis. Last week it was completely unchanged. So really, when we go back to mid-February, our bean basis has been exceptionally flat. And I think the story here continues to be the slowdown in exports, ample supplies of U.S. beans, and it's really just a matter of the merchandisers pulling it out of the farmers' hands when they need it. And with the futures market been, rallying at times, that's been getting the pipeline supplies met. In corn, it was another good week, up 2 cents. Last week was up 4 cents. So we're still seeing some positive movement here, a reverse of what's going on in beans, where we have much more export business in the second half of the marketing year probably coming down the pipe than we did in the first half. So still some strength in the corn basis, but beans overall continues to be flat.
Absolutely. And before we close off today's show, I just wanted to take a quick look at the daily corn chart here. Take a look. You'll notice that we're trading down around that 380. Notice back in February there, we had that very sharp down day, printing a low right around that 380. I wouldn't be surprised if Monday we come in, we find a little bit of support down around there. Just be cautious if you're looking to sell. Maybe let's just see how that price action unfolds there right around 380. We might get a little bit of a bid and possibly a bounce. You might be able to get a little bit of a price better on throughout the day. Other than that, guys, that pretty much wraps up today's show. If you have any questions about what we talked about, give us a call. The number is 877-472-4607.